Hello and welcome to India's World. Tension between India and Pakistan is rising after India's surgical strikes against terrorist launch pads across the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. India has clearly given up on strategic restraint against Pakistan, even as the escalation dynamics of this process remains unclear. Pakistan has warned that any misadventure by its adversaries will be met with a befitting response. As India and Pakistan enter a new era of showdown between them, today we are asking, what are the tangible gains of the cross-LOC strikes? How has the world reacted to India's punitive action against the terrorists? And is Indian foreign policy now likely to become increasingly Pakistan-centric? To discuss these issues and more, we have with us a distinguished panel of experts. We have with us Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, one of India's most distinguished diplomats. He's been Foreign Secretary and India's ambassador to Egypt, Turkey, and France and Russia. Ambassador G. Parthasarthy, another distinguished diplomat. He was India's ambassador to Myanmar and High Commissioner of India to Cyprus, Australia, and Pakistan. We also have with us Mr. Tilak Deveshar. He was Special Secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat. His area of interests are developments in India's neighbourhoods, especially in Pakistan and Afghanistan. I welcome you gentlemen to this discussion. Ms. Sibal, let me begin by asking you this. How have India's surgical strikes across the line of control played out internationally? Has the world been indifferent, or has it been supportive of Indian action of going across the LOC and hitting out at terrorists?
Well, you know, there's a huge change in how the world is looking at India-Pakistan relations today. If we had done this or were planning to do this 10, 15 years ago, there would already have been visits by the US Secretary of State, the European Union fellows and the British foreign minister and all these fellows coming and telling us not to do it. Because of the risks involved, put pressure on us. I've gone through that phase during Prakram, so I know. But this time, nothing. And in fact, in a sense, things are the same as ever, because Pakistan remains irrational. It is threatening India with use of nuclear weapons. It is such a loose and dangerous talk is indulged by them without restraint. They are using terrorism as an instrumental state policy, not only against us, but against the United States and Afghanistan. So in a sense, I think maybe the international opinion is tolerant of the idea that Pakistan should be punished to some extent, and if India can launch a limited operation, they don't see anything worrisome in that. But yes, if this escalates, then I think there would be diplomatic intervention by others, because nobody wants a nuclear standoff between India and Pakistan.
Okay. Ambassador Parthasarthy, what would you say to those who say that the gains of these surgical strikes are more in the domestic arena than in the international one? You could say the international community's view of Pakistan has changed, but nobody, in my knowledge, has said that India has done the right thing by going across the LOC and killing terrorists there.
Well,
they have not verbalized it.
The American National Security Advisor came pretty close to justifying it, as anybody else could have come. You take the Russian reaction, it has been very forthright. So in effect, the heat has turned on Pakistan. I think what has happened is the years of patience have paid off.
Yeah.
That as far as the world is concerned, this is the proverbial last straw on the camel's back as far as India is concerned. I look at a more important implication of this. Pakistan is now witnessing a huge struggle between the army and the civilian government, and the civilian government has been totally marginalized.
Yeah.
This is going to hit the army, because look at the confused reaction. First day they say the Indians didn't come across the LOC. Second day, they realized that cannot be sustained. They produced morphed photographs of our soldiers reportedly across the LOC getting hit by them. So the army, for the first time, this has shaken them.
But they may be just buying time.
No, just a minute. I'm talking of the present. So the thing is, the army has been discredited. How Nawaz utilizes that remains to be seen.
Okay.
Because by November, he cannot have Nawaz Rahil Sharif anymore, because it's just impossible. He's perhaps looking for a general with association with the PML. So he will play it cool and go along with Pakistani nationalism or whatever it is. without at the same time wanting escalation.
Okay.
Because he knows diplomatically they are horribly isolated.
Okay.
Worse still, with the coming of the BRICS summit, India is set to marginalize Pakistan
Yeah.
in South Asia
Okay.
by the eastern outreach with BIMSTEC.
Okay.
So they are in for deep trouble diplomatically.
Yeah.
Militarily, the point has been moved. And most important, I think the Director General of Military Operations, the Indian, calling up his Pakistani counterpart, explaining that this was undertaken to hit only those terrorists. And we are very sorry that collateral damage.
All
from
this is
Pakistan-
fine. All this is fine, but you're not answering my question. Were the domestic gains of these surgical operations more than the international gains? Yes or no?
I think they are both, the gains from both was worth it. Because
Okay.
at long last,
All right.
the way India is not going to be taken.
Yeah.
Domestic gains, I'm not in domestic politics, you better go for it.
All right. Tilak, such cross LOC strikes have been conducted in the past also, but they were not publicized. Why were they not publicized earlier, and why have we chosen to publicize them this time around?
I think the government wanted to make a point that this is not a covert operation. This is a regular operation hitting terrorist camps and telling Pakistan and telling the terrorists that we have the capability, we have the political will to do it, and we are going to do it. So a line has been drawn, literally.
We are going to do it means each time there is terrorist action in India, Indian forces will go across and destroy
No,
terrorist
I
camps.
didn't say that. This is the first step. They've been told that we can do this. Now, Pakistan's entire structure of jihadi terrorism was based on the assumption that India will not cross the LOC, and under the nuclear overhang, Pakistan can do what it wants and India will just absorb the pain. For the first time now, I think in about 30 years, the government has said, no, we are not going to be blackmailed on the nuclear issue, and we will hit you if we think that we are going to get hit. So it's been specific to terror camps, and that I think is the single most important message of these surgical strikes.
Well, quickly, what would happen if there are terrorist strikes on army camps in India again?
Before I answer that question, very, very briefly, you asked the question whether the gains have been more on the domestic side than on the external side. Yes, of course, in a democracy, the ruling party, the Prime Minister and others have to be sensitive to public opinion, and there was a lot of frustration. Day in and day out, year in and year out, we get attacked and we don't retaliate. This has been a hugely popular step that the government has taken, and there's excitement all over the country that at long last we have bitten the bullet and done this. That's one. Externally, I think we have demolished a barrier that we had erected for ourselves, that we will not cross the line of control. It didn't make any sense.
That's been made clear.
Right. So that has also happened. And therefore, I think we have gained a lot on all fronts.
Okay, all right. We need to take a break at this point. Excuse me. We'll be back again in a bit. Stay with us. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're discussing the heightened tension between India and Pakistan and where that might lead. You had not answered my question last time.
I was going to answer that. Now, I think we made very clear that earlier Pakistan had all the initiative. They could choose the time and place where they would attack us, and they knew our reaction and they could predict it. And I need not spell it out. But this time we made it clear that the initiative is with us. If they attack us, we need not have an immediate reaction. It may not be a totally knee-jerk reaction. It will be a calculated, well-thought-out reaction, and we can hit them anywhere we want. Okay. So my view is that if there is any significant attack, there will be a repetition of these operations by commandos.
Partha, you lived in
And it could be more
Pakistan.
serious than that.
Okay. Partha, you lived in Pakistan. You know that Pakistan considers India as an existential threat. Now, why would Pakistan listen to the international community, even if it gets isolated, and not continue to act against India as it has done in the past?
Well, I frankly, as far as the Pakistan military is concerned, I divide it into two. Their very existence is premised on continuation of hostilities with India. The aim, therefore, is not just military. It should be military, it should be covert, and it should be diplomacy. To see that the Pakistan military is discredited within its own country. They are now fighting on a number of fronts. There are periodic shootouts with Iran. The Afghans have refused to recognize the Durand line, and you are having shootouts with the Afghans. The real action is not on the borders with us. It is on the borders with
I'm going to
Afghanistan.
come to that. I'm going to come to that in the
I'm saying-
discussion.
So since you asked this question, this is the answer to your question.
Yeah.
Therefore, dealing with them now is going to be one major politico-military coordinated effort, one to isolate them regionally, as we have done with SARC, and we are hopefully going to replace SARC with BIMSTEC. And secondly, in terms of the military, they have taken a pounding. So we should be prepared for further such actions, but we'll have to see how it domestically plays out in Pakistan. Because the whole business throwing out Ravi Sharif on November 20th, we'll have to wait to see how it is done. But even another Pakistani army chief comes, he will remain hostile to India. That's his DNA. But now Sharif was a particularly bitter man. He was not a particularly good soldier. Now, Rahil Sharif, that is. But his uncle was killed by us in 65, his brother in 71. He is pathological on this. So we will get back to an army which is not friendly, hostile, but will be more careful than this sort of pathological hostility, because he has landed Pakistan in a mess. He has driven 800,000 Pashtuns away from their homes.
Yeah.
He has created a problem in the Pashtun tribal lands. He has got a frontier constabulary fighting in Karachi, and the involvement in Baluchistan. My point, if you ask me, talking in terms of real politics, we've got a tailor-made situation which we can work on.
All right. But Tilak, let me ask you something slightly different. Now, the US has been critical of Pakistan in cross-border terror attack in Uri. They've actually used the term cross-border. And they've criticized Pakistan for threatening to use nuclear weapons. Now, my question is the US in a position to pressure Pakistan to give up on terrorism or designate it as a terrorist state and follow through with all the crippling sanctions that would have to follow if such a designation is made under US law?
The short answer right now is no. You know, the presidential elections are due, and it will be, even though a bill has been introduced in Congress, it'll have to work its way through. So unless the new administration comes in January next year, then we'll see who comes and how they. So the US declaring Pakistan a state sponsor of terrorism is not on the immediate. So that's not going to happen. The other thing, if I could just go back to your earlier question, the reason why Pakistan has to pay attention to international opinion is because its economy is in shambles. Today, 70% of Pakistan's revenue is spent purely on debt repayment. It can't provide for its administration, for social services, for development without foreign funding. And even though China is coming in with this huge investment, it is not doles like what the US has been giving. So Pakistan has willy-nilly to pay attention to the international opinion.
Okay, that's a good point you've made. Ambassador Sibal, if the temperature on the LOC goes up, Pakistan would be forced to deploy its troops on its eastern front with India. And as Partha was saying, it will affect what they are doing on the western front with Tehreek-e-Taliban on the Afghanistan border. Now, would the international community stand to gain more by Pakistan fighting the Taliban and keeping its forces deployed there? Or would they encourage or would they overlook they're deploying the troops on the LOC and playing a staring match with India?
Well, you know, this has always been the pressure point from the Americans on us, that don't do anything on the eastern side because this will distract Pakistan from fighting the terrorists that they are interested in, the Haqqani group and the Taliban and everything else. In other words, don't add to our problems by creating problems on your frontier. And we have, by and large, followed that particular kind of pressure advice that has been coming from the Americans as part of our larger engagement with the Americans. I think Pakistan cannot move its army from the western side and bring it to the eastern side, because on the eastern side, what will they gain? Yes, they can be firing across the line of control, pinpricks here and there, but there are no gains to be made.
Exactly.
Whereas if they move our troops from the western side, all the gains that they have made in terms of their actions in North Waziristan, South Waziristan, all this, they'll lose them. Because the Taliban, the Tehreek, TTP will come back, this and that, and then they'll have to spend time and effort and manpower and casualties in order to recover that terrain. So our military experts at the highest level don't think that Pakistan will be so foolish as to do this In other words, escalate the things to such a point that they are required to move their troops from the western side to the eastern side in large numbers.
So, Partha, does the action against across the LOC mean that the ceasefire that came into existence in 2003 during the Vajpayee regime now stands abrogated?
I think the Pakistan army will not forget the plastering they got in the Neelam Valley and elsewhere when we turned on full firepower. Before. The 2003 ceasefire came not out of any great love for India, but came out of the price they were paying for Indian artillery fire. Hopefully, I don't know, our firepower is better and enhanced than then. So I don't think, especially given their involvement in the western borders, there are 200,000 troops deployed along those borders, and also occasional shootouts with Iran, with mortar
But
shootouts.
what India did, is it a ceasefire violation or not? We've said we don't care for the ceasefire. So is the ceasefire still in existence, is my question.
Of course, we have not resorted to artillery shelling. We have described it even to the Pakistan DGMO and to Susan Rice as having been a limited surgical strike on terrorist basis. That's it.
So it's not... So we
where
want the
have you fired
ceasefire
at the
to
Pakistan
continue.
army?
We want the ceasefire to continue, yes or no?
I don't mind it. Both suits me. They want to have a shootout.
No, what is the legal position once you've violated
we have not violated this. We have not violated the ceasefire.
How have you not violated? You've gone across the border.
Gone across. So whom did we target?
There's been collateral damage, or you might want to call it collateral damage of soldiers. You've killed soldiers. Or you say we've killed no Pakistani soldiers. We've killed only.
Pakistan has claimed that it was a normal cross-border fire. They can't change that position and now say you violated.
So ceasefire is in existence.
Ceasefire is in existence de facto. If they want to change it, I'm quite happy.
All right. Okay, we need to take a break at this point. We'll be back again in a bit. Stay with us. Don't go away. Welcome back. We're discussing the heightened tension between India and Pakistan and where it might lead. Tilak, now, has India decided that any future escalatory dynamic in military-political relations between the two countries can be the result of action of non-state actors who may not be fully under the control of Pakistan? We may say they are under control, but suppose they are not under the control of Pakistan, and there are such groups there, and they conduct terrorist acts. Would that mean India again acts militarily and politically against Pakistan?
See, I don't know how we can draw the distinction. Musharraf said in 2004 that we will not allow our territory to be used by any group against any other country. Now, how do I know whether they are under the control of the Pakistan army or not? Any activity coming from across the border has to be taken as in connivance, because on the LOC, as you're aware, all the launching nets are there. They have to cross through the Pakistan army. And the fact that the Pakistan army soldiers were also killed in this surgical strike is because they were sitting in the same camps as the terrorists. So, you can't make that distinction.
But our people were able to cross without the Pakistan army knowing, so they can also
because
cross.
They weren't expecting it. They were totally stunned. They weren't expecting it. They didn't think that India would ever cross the LOC.
My point is, irrespective of what happened on the ground, has the escalatory dynamic changed? That each time there are infiltrators coming across, they act, we will act militarily. Doesn't matter whether those infiltrators are independent agents or whether they are coming in connivance with Pakistani army.
I frankly think that it is too early to come one way or the other. We have demonstrated that yes, we will take preemptive strikes for a gathering of grouping of terrorists who are, yes, there specific intelligence is there. Yeah. Next time around, again, if there is specific intelligence, I don't know. I mean, I can't say, but certainly.
Let me answer that question. Okay. I believe that prior to our surgical strike, for 48 hours, we saw the movement of terrorists coming closer to the launching pads. And our DGMO spoke to the Pakistan DGMO and told him what is happening, because we are seeing this happening. And he said, no, it's a figment of your imagination. Totally denied anything was happening. And then when we saw them actually move to the launching pads, we launched this preemptive strike. Yeah. So if the DGMO was denying that this was happening, and in actual fact it was happening, then there is no question of they being non-state actors.
No, in this case, they must have been, there was connivance, otherwise Pakistani soldiers would not have died. But in future, if there are non-state actors, what will you do?
There are no non-state actors. I tell you, if the Pakistani said that, look, we do not control these fellows, but we are keeping intelligence tabs on them, and each time we see something happening, because we also monitor all this. We will inform you in advance. So do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Then I would agree that they are cooperating with us seriously, concretely on the ground.
Yeah.
But if they are in total denial all the time, they are actually then using these non-state actors as a form of proxy war against us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
May I say something facetious?
Yeah.
There are no non-state actors in Pakistan.
Yeah.
They are all deep state actors, the deep state being the ISI.
Okay, all right. But let me ask you a slightly different question, Partha. Some Indian strategic experts are saying that, or have been claiming up to now, that India's main foreign policy challenge lies with the rise of China. Now, is this claim getting eroded, and is our foreign policy in danger of becoming Pakistan-centric and held captive by whatever Pakistan does?
Look, I would observe Chinese behavior here. Don't forget Xi Jinping is going to be in Goa next month. There have been certain change in the dynamics. We do not see the sort of cross-border, line of actual control intrusions as we used to have after the Xi Jinping visit. Primarily, I am interested in our security. China is a strategic challenge, but it is a challenge of a different variety where you can have a civilized competition. Okay? We will be complementary, we will be competing. It is not a country, and it is a global power with looking well beyond India. It is not a power so obsessed with only one thing in life causing harm to India.
Okay.
So there is qualitatively a difference. Yes, there are opportunities, there are challenges in dealing with Pakistan, and we will deal
Okay.
with both.
Do you want to add something to that before I move to Tilak?
No, I think our policy has always been Pakistan-centric, because Pakistan was part of military alliances. The United States had backed Pakistan, continues to back Pakistan even today. And Pakistan is challenging us in the Islamic world, in Afghanistan, in our neighborhood. They are the ones who are supplying arms to Sri Lanka and even Nepal. They've been playing footsie with Nepal. On the human rights issue, we've had to deal with Pakistan propaganda. Kashmir has been internationalized by ourselves, and then Pakistan has exploited it, and we have had to fight that in the United Nations, etc., etc. The thing is that China-Pakistan relationship has been a huge strategic threat to us, because they transfer nuclear and missile technologies and continue. They're the biggest defense partner of Pakistan. They're supplying them advanced weaponry, and now the CPEC. So it's a combined challenge. I don't. When you say Pakistan-centric, it is assumed that behind Pakistan is China, and therefore we have two challenges which are
Merging.
which have merged and are merging even more. And therefore
I think China's challenge is strategic, in the sense, as Kanwal says, backing the Pakistanis, causing us problems across all of South Asia and our neighborhood, trying to keep us out of East Asia. These are strategic. China is not in the business of continuously undermining our internal security. That is the difference.
Okay. Tilak, if you want to add something to what they're saying, you're free to do so. But what I want to ask you was that, where will the present course of action against Pakistan lead us? In the sense that, is India in a position to calibrate the escalation with Pakistan, or have we given the key to Pakistan? Because everything depends on how they react.
Just one on the Pakistan-China thing. I think Pakistan is really a hurdle for us to realize our full potential in the region and in the world. This Pakistan hurdle has to be dealt with. And then, China and the other things. On the question that you raised on this...
Who's calibrating? Who will calibrate? Will India be able to calibrate it? Or
the ball is definitely in
reactive
Pakistan's court. How, the extent to which they escalate. And I would look slightly at the long term rather than the immediate escalation. Unless and until Pakistan dismantles the terror network, that's one thing. But changing the mindset, giving an alternative narrative, providing jobs to these jihadis, we will always have to be on our guard. And one way or the other, Pakistan will get back to us. May not be immediately, could be in the slightly longer term, but we will have to be on our guard, and the ball is definitely in Pakistan's court. You may think that we are being reactive, but we have demonstrated a message, a very strong message, which will make Pakistan change their entire paradigm for the last 30 years.
No, but they have escalated the whole thing, because they try to take full advantage of what was happening in the valley after Burhan Wani's killing, and the manner in which Nawaz Sharif went to town, a speech at the UNGA, approaching the P5, declaring Pakistan Independence Day as Burhan Wani Martyrdom Day. This is serious. This was serious escalation on Nawaz
So the
Sharif's
key
part.
to escalation is with them, not with us.
No, I think now they will have to think and sit back. But I actually don't see what they're going to do in terms of real escalation. Okay, terrorist attacks, some pinpricks on the border, but beyond that, what can they do? And if there's a major attack, and we have said repeatedly now for some time, that if there's a Mumbai-like attack, then all bets are off. So, and Pakistan knows that. And therefore, I don't think that they are in a position to take a very big risk. And that's why they are playing the whole thing down, because they don't want internal pressures to get built up to say that, you know, this action has taken place and now you're required to react to save the honor of Pakistan and the Pakistan army. They're even denying that surgical strikes took place. And I feel it's in our interest to let this happen and not try to demonstrate, no, we have killed so many people, so many casualties have been inflicted. Let's play their game. It suits us.
Okay, all right. We've run out of time. I'd like to thank all my guests, Mr. Tilak Deveshar, Ambassador G. Parthasarthy, Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, for participating in this discussion. We could have gone on for some more time, but unfortunately, this is the time allotted to us. That's all we have for you today. We'll be back again next week as usual. Until then, goodbye and thanks for watching India's World.